right, you ignorant pigs, put down your crack pipes and your beer bongs. It's time for Angry Tabletop Nerds Night at the Movies. This night's offering from Beyond the Pit is Zeiram, 1991, starring Kunihiro Ida, Yuko Moriyama, Yukijiro Hotaru, and MizuhoYoshida as Zeiram. Mizuho was he was Godzilla in the suit. Directed by Keita Amemiya. Now, Keita Amemiya is one of the fathers of Tokusatsu. Tokusatsu is a film genre that uses a lot of live action special effects, squigs, explosions, you name it. In layman's terms, it's Power Rangers or Super Sentai or Ultraman. Written by Keita Amemiya and Hajime Matsumoto. Let's check it out. So have you ever seen that movie, Predator? Zeram is a lot like that movie Predator. It's about an immortal extraterrestrial being that comes to Earth to hunt and collect DNA and feast and replicate itself. I'd say the best way to describe Zeram himself is it's a mix mash between the Thing and the Predator. And then you enter Ilia, who's an intergalactic female bounty hunter with a score to settle. That's kind of the setup for this movie. I like it when movies have a very simple setup. Watching it in the foreign language for the first time, you kind of miss that part. You think you're missing something, but that's really the whole setup for this entire movie. Is aliens come to Earth, Space Chan has to stop them. Okay, so the movie is a little bit off-putting at first because it just starts out with ominous presence of Zeram and that creepy little white face of his. And this is where they front-load most of the brutal carnage in the movie as he slaughters his way through a group of commandos. I guess they wanted to establish this movie as more adult because the kids in Japan that had grown up through the 80s were kind of in their mid-teens and late teens, and they were growing out of Tokusatsu. So this was their way to bring them back into the fold. Enter two Japanese electricians, Kamiya and Teppei. And then you come to Ilia, who is basically in her base of operations on Earth, with an illegal power hookup, and she's creating an alternate dimension zone to minimize harm to the Earth. And this is where she's going to engage with Zeram, where he lands. So when he lands, he immediately enters this alternate dimension. It's a really weird thing that went completely over my head the first time I watched it in Japanese. There is an English dubbing of this movie, so you might want to check that out first. She's being assisted by her AI computer assistant, Bob, who helps orchestrate all this. Bob is also different from other AIs because he was once a living individual. So 20 minutes in, Kame and Teppei stumble into her base of operations. Zeram lands, and Teppei accidentally gets transported to the zone, and she goes, oh crap. She gets onto the transporter unit, and then Kamiya jumps onto the transporter unit. So they all go there kind of together, but just a little bit apart from one another because Zeram has already shown up in that zone. And this is where the movie just goes action, action, action. It kind of becomes like a mix mash of the end of Predator and Home Alone because Ilia had been preparing the zone with extra traps, extra weapons to help her bring this monster down. They engage in close combat for a very prolonged period. I want to say about 10.5 minutes, and then she's successful in capturing Zeram in a cube. All right. And right as she's about to send him back, some space peanut pod monster alien shows up from out of nowhere, and she gets transported back instead. And this breaks the teleporter. Now, this movie, I'm going to warn you now, has a lot of space peanut pod monsters and back and forth teleportation in it. All right. Not to mention a lot of trapping monsters and people in cubes. Okay. So this just leaves Kamiya and Teppei in the alternate dimension, waiting with the Zeram cube, and then from out of nowhere, another space peanut pod monster shows up. Zeram has the ability to make space peanut pod monsters, and everything goes to shit. Zeram gets out as they try to fight this little monster off, and then Zeram proceeds to chase our two clowns around the zone. And this is where the twist is. It's up to those two to fight the monster. And the whole time is Bob is worrying about the legality of allowing this to happen, because they're not really, they have a prime directive. It's very similar to Star Trek, where they're not really supposed to interact with the locals. And Ilia, there's a lot of rules and regulations that that really come out more in the anime rather in this movie. Needless to say, they are terrorized and they're running away from this thing, and then finally they're successful with hitting the monster with a truck. One of the things I like about Zeram is that he's tough, but he's not 100% invincible. So you hit him with the truck, he just doesn't like sit there like Superman, you know, and like the truck just parts around him. Anyway, this establishes Zeram as one of the weirdest monsters I've ever seen in like film history. It's got this weird little white face that protrudes out like a tentacle and is also used like a second set of jaws for like an alien xenomorph. It just like lashes out there, and it even takes a small bite of Kamiya as they try to escape this broken truck. And this monster later on tries to make a space peanut pod monster using Kamiya's DNA, and I guess it had free will, so he squashes it into a pile of goo. Finally, Ilia is able to transport to our clowns a communication device, and she's trying to get them to help her. She has a lot of compassion. She doesn't want these guys to just end up being killed, and I think that's a really good character development for her, or something like that. I don't know. Very compassionate, and I think she's able to humanize with our two wayward clowns. So as they're talking, Zeram attacks again. They get separated. She's able to convince Teppei into helping her, and she proposes, because she can only send small things through the transporter, sending a BFG to the base of operations where she's operating, but not really there because it's in an alternate dimension. So she's going to send that weapon there, and then Teppei goes to get that weapon. Zeram hunts him down. Then he's saved by Kamiya and a Traco. They make some of the same sound effects with that Traco that sounds like the power loader. It is kind of set up like that. They were taking a cue from Aliens there. And then Ilia comes in the 11th hour, hits Zeram with a rocket launcher. Now you think that would end the movie. Wrong. Zeram's sombrero head proceeds to live. All right, and then you have some pretty cool rod puppet special effects as the skeleton of Zeram begins to wreak havoc. Ilia uses the BFG, and you think that would end the movie, but you're mistaken. All right. This then after she blows the body apart, she traps the sombrero head in the cube, transports the sombrero head with Kamiya and Teppei back to regular Earth. Like I said, a lot of transportation shenanigans. Then the transporter breaks again because Zeram gets out, and Kamiya and Teppei are left having to fight the spider demon snake form of Zeram, where it's got tentacles, and it's just this grotesque mess, very reminiscent of The Thing. That's like the best way I can describe it. And it's up to our two clowns to see if they can stop them again. Now, without spoiling the real ending of Zeram, I think it's time we get to those Slayer Pit totals. We have one Space Chan, and a Space Chan is any attractive alien female that comes from outer space and is nice to the local males, like Starfire, Calm from Outlanders, or Loom. 11 kills, 1 alien space monster, stabbing, machine gunning, body blasting, heads roll, arm chopping, tentacle face biting, cube shenanigans, transporter shenanigans, space peanuts equal pod monsters, tokusatsu heavy weapons, 1 AI assistant named Bob, 1 steel spike trap, 1 column through the chest, and 1 act of hitting a monster with a truck. Slayer Pit Awards to Yuko Moriyama as Ilia. Bob, I'm in close combat. I need to use the suit. And then Best Supporting Actors, Kunihiro and Yukijiro as Kamiya and Teppei. You're going to grow to love these clowns, especially if you watch the Japanese version. And then Best Director, Keita Amemiya, for not only his direction, but the direction of special effects and practical effects. Angry Tabletop Nerd gives Zeram 2 skulls. And a couple of things hurt this movie is that it just kind of comes from out of left field with the setup. And you'll miss that the first time if you watch the Japanese version. There is an English dubbing, but that's worse. I want to say it works. You could watch them both in tandem. The movie is worth watching twice, once in English, once in Japanese. This movie even spawned an anime, which I suggest you check out first, but then it'll just leave you asking more questions. I would say that this particular instance, you would probably want to just watch the anime and be done with it because it's more of a prequel to this movie. There is a sequel which I have not seen. Maybe I'll do another review later on when I need another Japanese offering for Monster Fest. But as far as the anime goes, I wish I had picked that one up in the early 2000s because that came out and I had no idea that's talk about value. You had to spend like $29 on a new DVD back then, which was bullshit most of the time unless you got them at like launch. I remember a lot of DVDs costing that in that range because of tax and everything. And you could have picked up Ilia, which is a six episode OVA for about $30, which would have made the money worth it because usually you get 3 episodes of DVD and then you get some bullshit special features and you're stuck waiting for months and months for the next DVD to come out in the series. So Iria's a one and done, and I do like it for that. You can watch that for free on Amazon. You can watch Zeiram for free on YouTube. And certain parts of YouTube, deep space, if you find the right guy, you can watch Zeiram too. They want that one on Con TV for free with ads, but YouTube ads are unbearable, especially when you're watching on TV. You're watching on TV, you can't use your ad blocker, and they have 4 unskippable ads. Fuck you, YouTube. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, this about wraps it up for Monster Fest 2025. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you're watching on Rumble, thank you there. If you're on YouTube and you leave me a like and a comment, I get to keep the like for every comment I get. The YouTube algorithmic suppression works as follows. For every 8 likes I get to keep 1 of those likes. But if you tie that like to a comment, I immediately get to keep the like. If you want to get in touch with me on some other movies or commission me to do your own private movie review, get in touch with me on Instagram. Instagram DMs are the best way to get in touch with me. I'm always over there talking to various fans. And then in case I don't see you, keep playing. Keep playing some Warhammer. Keep watching horror movies because I think that kind of goes hand in hand. And happy Halloween. And we'll see you in the next one. And now it's time for Angry Tabletop Nerds. Halloween PSA to all the little kiddies out there. When you go out trick-or-treating, you're going to wear something neon because it's dark out there and there are idiots driving cars and they might run you over and they'll keep going if Instagram is any indicator of that. Then you're going to go to houses that have lights. You're going to go up to these houses. You're going to knock on the door. You're going to say trick or treat. And then you're going to stay on the doorstep. You're not going to go into anybody's houses because they might shut the door behind you. And if Instagram is any indicator of just how ugly the world is, you're going to stay on the doorstep. Then you're going to get your bag of candy home and you're going to let your parents check through it for razor blades, hand grenades, and to make sure that nobody gave you some kind of wrapped up popcorn ball in a paper towel that might be laced with arsenic. Then you're going to sit down, you're going to eat your candy, and you're going to watch some of these horror movies that I had on Monster Fest 2025. Whether it's Curse of the Werewolf, The Mummy from Hammer Horror, or it's Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, or our Japanese installment, Zeiram 1991, and then you're going to have yourself a happy Halloween. And we'll see you next year. Minor side note, back in the 90s, I ate the popcorn ball wrapped in a paper towel, and I think it cost me 10 points in IQ. I yield the balance of my time.
I'm more of an expert at exposing the moon. Get out of your telescope! See if you find the one crater.